So hi there, it's Dr. Tina again with Parent Like a Pro. And today I have with me the gorgeous Naomi Richards, who happens to be the #1 UK's kids coach. And she's also a mother and author of the books Being Me and Loving It and The Parent's Toolkit, Simple and Effective Ways to Help Your Child to Be Their Best. So hi, Naomi.
Hi, nice to meet you and to be here.
And so nice having you. So be so kind and tell us something about yourself and how you got into becoming a kids coach.
Okay, so I became a kids coach when I was pregnant with my first child.
Okay.
I used to work in the middle of London, in the city, and decided that I wanted to work around my children. I didn't really know what that looked like. So I kind of worked on myself and did a bit of self-discovery and realized that what really floated my boat, what made me excited, was working with kids and helping them problem solve and empowering them really to be their best. So I retrained as a life coach for children and have been doing it for the last 15 years.
Amazing. That's so nice. So I want to get as practical as I can here.
Okay.
I understand how it is, this desire to work with children, because I'm a pediatrician and I think, I don't know, from the beginning, I want to do something, that has to be, involved, where children will be involved. So I completely, understand. And, I did a bit of a research. So I was actually asking the parents of my patients, if you would have a possibility to ask something, actual life coach for kids, what would you ask? So I prepared some questions and I think they won't be too hard.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so what is your definition of a happy child?
Oh my gosh. My definition of a happy child is...
What would be the perfect, what we say, oh, this child is really happy, seems to be really happy.
A child that is happy is normally, they feel quite relaxed about what's going on their lives. Their friendships seem to be working quite well. They feel supported at home. They feel supported at school. And they feel generally quite strong, I suppose. And in some respects, empowered, but also kind of in control of what's going on in their life. So, they're making life happen and they're enjoying life like on a daily basis.
Yeah, and you can see that.
Yes.
And, a lot of parents are struggling with, they're asking me also how to connect to their child and how to understand children, because they seem to, kind of lost this connection from the beginning and they don't know how to do it. What would you suggest?
I think connection is really all about time. It's about putting aside some time with your children, with your child. And that can be at bedtime, that can be sitting over meal times, chatting to them while you're eating. It's being interested. It's about asking questions and also sometimes observing your child and what they like to do. And even if you don't like what they're doing, it's about getting involved in it too. I mean, I know there are lots of, say, dads who would say, I don't want to play dolls, but actually playing dolls with their child is actually a really good way to connect.
Yeah, it is. And I really liked the fact, I am also a mother and my daughter is 3 years old. And I like to ask her, what do you want? Even when it comes to just, picking up the clothes, what she's going to wear. And sometimes the combinations are just outstanding. But, she's feeling like having it. And I usually, I'm trying to ask her. And I think this asking children what they want, it's really something, it's a good connection, because we all are having this in our minds that they are so small and they don't know, but that's not the fact. Very early on they know what they want.
I think giving children choice and allowing them to make decisions for themselves has a real effect on their self-esteem. And, I often see children whose self-esteem isn't great. And, once they see that they are able to do stuff, and they can make good choices, then their self-esteem rises.
Exactly. So, you know, I'm also an advocate of the theory that children really learn by modeling, and that every parent needs to become the really best version of themselves in order to kind of be, you know, give the child the best platform from which they can thrive. So what about, you know, if we're having these conscious parents and they are dealing with an angry and frustrated child? So, you know, how to deal with such a child, and basically what are, you know, the parents then, representing and showing to the child, that so that the child can model this behavior, but they are really trying not to be angry and frustrated, you know?
Yeah, I think, I mean, angry, and when a child is angry and frustrated, it's normally because they're unhappy about something. And so there were two things really. One of them is about understanding and sitting down with your child and trying to find out what's going on in their life so that you can address it. I think the other one is, as you say, about role modeling. And it's about how we're communicating with our child. How are we showing how we feel? Are we expressing our feelings? Are we bottling them up and then exploding?
Yeah.
You know, attitude definitely breeds attitude. And I think when you get angry and you show that anger towards your child, and it's more likely that they're going to kind of behave like that.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful about how we speak and the tone that we use and the words that we use.
Yeah.
They're all very important.
Yeah. So what about if we, you know, see really unwanted behavior in our child? Do you have any, you know, tools? How can we start changing it, you know, ourselves? What to do? Like what to do?
So yeah, when we see behavior that we don't particularly like, we have to, especially when they're young, we have to teach them the right way of how we should behave, and they need to understand the implications of their behavior. And it's about turning things on their head, isn't it? But realizing and not expecting too much. You know, change takes time.
Yeah.
You know, when I've worked with children that the bad behavior, say, is represented at home or at school, it's about, okay, well, what do we expect? You know, when we behave in a certain way, what do we get back?
Yeah.
Okay, what are the rewards? But children need to learn about consequences too.
Exactly. Yeah, I think so
you know,
too.
if they're going to behave in a certain way, what are the consequences? And we're talking about consequences, not necessarily, you know, we're not talking about punishment.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen if I behave that way? How are people going to feel towards me? What is going to happen? Is something going to be, you know, some parents obviously work from a place where they take things away. I often think it's the other way I prefer, which is about, this is how you, if you behave this way, this is you know, what you will get, almost, you know, like, this is how people will treat you. How do you know? And I think, you know, quality time and children being treated well and respected almost kind of promotes good behavior, really.
Yeah, it does. I think so too. But what about, you know, discipline? What do you think about timeouts? Timeouts seem to, you know, to be very, very popular technique. I don't like them personally. I did try once a timeout, because I was working all day, and it's really hard to admit, you know, in front all of you that I have done it. And even my husband, he said, I'm not, you know, I don't know if this is such a good thing to do. But I was really so tired. I was working all day. I had, you know, this stressful situations at work. And, you know, when I came with this energy, everything, you know, of course, my child felt it, and nothing, you know, everything went, you know, it was a disaster. So I was so hopeless, and I didn't know what to do. And I have put her to timeout, and, you know, the way she was crying and, you know, begging me, mommy, please come. And she, of course, afterwards, she was behaving perfectly. But, you know, what about this, you know, I am all for, you know, the children need to learn about consequences, and, you know, they really do from early on. But what about, you know, discipline and, you know, I don't know, what are your recommendations for, you know, discipline?
Well, It's interesting because I've never used timeout, and my children
Lucky you.
are my children are obviously older than yours. I've never used it. I mean, my approach is very much, you know, if something's been not so great, their behaviour is not. I've always said to them, you know, like, you know what, I'd really, you know, like to go away and think about what's happened. So let's both think about what's happened, and then let's come back and let's talk about it. I'm just not a big fan of putting children in an isolated place,
Yeah, I know.
where really, you know, especially young children, they don't really understand. You know,
Mm.
and the real world, you know, if I was at work and, you know, I behaved badly, would I be put on a step somewhere
Yeah,
or in a
I
room?
know.
And it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So in terms of discipline, I think the other way again is better. It's about promoting good behaviour. So I think one of the reasons why children don't really behave is first of all, it's about time with you and they're not getting it. But the other thing is, a lot of children don't know what the rules are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when children don't really know the rules of the house, then it's quite confusing. And also there's consistency as well. And I think there's also, you know, when we're not consistent, I don't know what I'm doing. You're like, you know, am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? So I think we have to be really, really clear about our expectations of the child. I think we have to be clear of the consequences when they display behaviour that we're not particularly keen on. But I also think they need to be aware of the rules. And in terms of rules, I always say keep it really, really simple. You know, when you've got young children, 3 rules. 3 things. What are the 3 things that are really, really important to you? Is it that they use a knife and fork at the table? You know, is it that they come and they, instead of shouting between rooms, they come and find you and talk to you? You know, it's just about keeping things really simple.
So this is also, you know, what about setting the boundaries? How do you do it? I mean, just could you give us an example? Like, let's say you have a 3-year-old. How to set boundaries if, you know, the child is trying to push your buttons and, you know, testing you? I know consistency is, you know, it's totally the way, but what
I mean, I work with slightly older children. I work with
Okay.
children that are 6+ really, because their emotional intelligence is there.
Yeah.
Children are there to push boundaries. Okay, that's all about learning. It's about learning about, you know, what's going to happen if I do X. And again, yes, definitely consistency. I think they need to understand. You know, often we can say to a child, well, you know, this is you know, this is what you did. This is what's happened. Yeah. And you need to get that child to understand by maybe even repeating it back to you about what's gone on and what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Children will always push boundaries. You know, even my 11 and 15-year-old push boundaries, because that's their way of asserting themselves, really. And actually, we do want children to assert themselves. We don't want passive children who are able to go into like a school setting where they can't stand up for themselves and they can't say, you know what, this is what I want and this is what I need. So actually, I think it's a positive thing that children are pushing the boundaries, because they're learning about that. Well, if I do that, what's going to happen?
Exactly.
Okay, and that's how the real world works.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. And I'm sorry, I just got a message. I thought my phone was off. But what about children who are, you know, lying and they're not feeling it's safe to tell the truth to their parents? What do you think this happens? Why do you think this happens? And, you know, how to teach them it is safe and really the best? Because I've talked to some of them, you know, who happen to be my patients, and, you know, parents came to me and said, you know, we are having this terrible problem that he is, you know, lying to us and we don't know why. And, you know, I got this incredible answer. I don't think it's safe. I'm scared. So probably this child had a negative experience, you know, connected to telling the truth. But how to teach them back that it is safe, you know, because, you know, we are trying to tell the truth all the time.
Yeah, I think lying comes from 2 different places. I think it comes from children they love to tell stories, and when they're in the playground and they want to have one-upmanship, They will elaborate on the truth. I think, well, actually, there's more than two reasons. I think there's that. I think when they're at school, they think they're going to get into trouble, and therefore they don't tell the truth. But I think at home, and possibly at school too, they're worried that if they tell the truth, they're worried what's going to happen. And that their parents are going to come down on them like a ton of bricks. So they're fearful. And what we need to do is we need to be able to say to our kids, you know what? First of all, when you lie, you always get found out, right? And actually, you know what? It is better to tell the truth from the outset, because often the consequences when you tell the truth are not as bad as when you get found out and you've been lying. So we need to try and promote this kind of honesty at home. Honesty is like the best way forward. Because, you know, children will lie just to stay out of trouble because they are scared. I have a lot of children who will lie, but then will see that the fact that if they are honest, only good things can happen, really.
Yeah. So what about child's confidence? How to build it? And why do they, you know, sometimes all of a sudden lose their confidence?
Children as young as 6 can lose their confidence, even younger. And that's because when they enter the school environment, they often get knocked down. Somebody may say to them, oh, you're such a baby. Or there might be kids like whispering, and they think it's about them. They're not, you know, they're not kind of ready to handle the social aspects of, say, school, and it's understanding friendships. There are so many different ways. It can be the way that a parent speaks to a child. It's the way that it's in the playground. It could be, you know, like anything can kind of happen to that child. So that child has a wobble and suddenly thinks, well, oh my gosh, actually, I thought I could, but now I can't. And it's really trying to turn it on its head to see that child that they are actually able. So we need to kind of sit down with that child and say, right, you know, this has happened. Let's talk about all the things that you can do. Okay, what kind of skills do they need? Like, you know, you've got this, and this. You are wonderful. Let's start, you know, building up that confidence gradually. You know, bullying is a big thing as well. You know, bullying and name calling. You know, really, you know, just like that can lower a child's self-esteem and their confidence. And it's getting them again to believe in themselves, believe that they are great, and you know, start moving forward.
Yeah, that was my next question also. How do we help a child to deal with a negative or bad experience that is happening or happened? So it would be, you know, also the same thing, probably just
it's about talking about it and learning from it. You know, even as adults now, things go wrong. You know, you can have a confidence wobble, but it's like, okay, so what do I do now? Right? How do I get over this? You know, going for a job or something, and you get rejected from the job. You know, it's like you've got to just be able to pick yourselves up. And children have that resilience and go. But it goes down to self-belief.
What about standing for themselves? Because sometimes I see, you know, children on a playground, and I know the parents who are really, you know, really this type of assertive person, but their child is not, and they really don't know how to stand for themselves. What should we do here?
Gosh, I think we need to. I suppose it all depends on the personality of the child and the actual interaction that's going on. You know, it's all about thinking about the other person. So if you've got a child and I don't know, somebody's calling them a silly name, some children will get upset. Some children may just ignore it and just think, oh gosh, that's so silly, I'm just not even going to bother with interacting with that child. And other children would say something particularly funny and make the other one laugh and diffuse the situation. You know, there are lots of different ways. When I work with the kids, I say to them, okay, if you do X, what's the other child going to do? How is the other child going to react? Because, you know, you can get children to stand up for themselves, okay, but they've got to think about what's going to happen next. You know, I don't like you talking to me like that. Well, the other child will say, I can talk to you the way that I want. Yeah. So that's not going to be helpful. But at the same time, you know, running to a teacher because somebody said something nasty isn't necessarily the way forward either. You know, because you've got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, and you've got to think, okay, so this person did this or said this. First of all, did it really happen? Should I be upset about it? You know, it's like the child running around in the playground and accidentally, you know, pushes somebody else over. Well, was it an accident or was it intentional? Oh, it was an accident. Should I be upset by it? No, I should look around and see that they're playing a game, and that was it. Was it intentional? Yeah, it was intentional. Okay. Hey, you know, did you realize that your foot was there? You know, and, you know, it's about finding the truth as well, whether it's really happening.
Okay. I'm, you know, getting also lots of questions about sibling rivalry, and especially when a baby is born and the older child seems to envy this little one. So what is the best way of, in a way, preparing the child that, you know, a baby will be born, and what to do when these problems arise, if these problems just, you know, appear after the baby is born?
I guess it's about getting your child involved during your pregnancy, first of all, and talking about it, and maybe reading with the child books and stuff, talking about other people that have had, you know, babies and all the things that's going to happen. But making that child not only feel part of it, but also make them still feel special. You know, when it comes to like the second child, you must make sure that you spend time with your first child. You've had your child first, they've been around, they've only known being almost an only child for a while, and I think it's important that we continue to spend time with that child. And obviously if they're 2 parents, then, you know, one parent can spend time with the older child while the other one is looking after the baby, and vice versa. But also, you know, they can help. You know, let them be a part of it. Okay, can you fetch me something? Would you like to do that? Would you like to do that? So that they enjoy being around the child, the baby, rather than resenting them. And they'll resent the baby if all of a sudden mum and dad dote on that baby, and that oldest child is just forgotten about. You know, so I think it's really important that when your first child, you continue to have that relationship and spend time with them.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you as a parent.
Okay.
So, you know, sometimes you have a rough day at work, and then, you know, children are pushing our boundaries. And then, you know, some of the parents, they, you know, just unconsciously react and start yelling. So what can we do to remain calm? Do you have any tips on this one, to remain calm and not, you know, not yell at children?
I think it's to have a gap between when you leave work and when you enter the house.
That's a wonderful,
right? And that, you know, in the car, just having, you know, right, okay, so I'm going to leave work at home. You know, you process everything that's happened and say, right, you know, this is what's going to happen when I go into the house. You know, my child is, you know, your child is going to demand your attention. Okay. So you need to be in the right mindset before you actually put your key in the door.
Right. Mindset is everything.
It's all about preparation, really. You know, this is their time. You know, when you walk in, they want you. You know, they don't want you with all the work baggage. They just want you to be fun mummy who's gonna be, I want to tell you about my day. I want you to, you know, sit and eat with me. I want you to play with me, all those kind of things. And so I think we need to kind of almost like take a deep breath. And I think, you know, it's exasperating for mums and dads and guardians to, you know, to walk straight in, and it's like, you know, children are, you know, all over them, and they haven't even put their bag down, because like, oh my God, you know, like, so, you know, it's try and go in slowly rather than
That's a wonderful, yeah, wonderful idea. Yeah, yeah, I have to start doing that. Although I'm not yelling, but sometimes you really need this, time for yourselves, even 5-10 minutes to just,
Absolutely.
calm down, relax. I don't know, just drink a coffee or something, and then because the child will want you, and it's normal.
Yes.
And I'm happy if she wants me. That means I'm being a good mom, and she
Yeah.
is enjoying my company, and it
Yeah.
actually is really a proof of that I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
wants me. So if we would now fast forward to a
Yeah.
teenager,
Yeah.
so if a teenager is not cooperating, what to
Hmm.
do?
Oh my gosh, we expect them to not cooperate. I think that there are a couple of things, I think, in terms of relationships with them. I think that there are some, we have to pick our battles. I think that we have to, in some ways, let them do their own thing and let them have their own social life. But I also think they have to understand their commitment to the family,
Mm-hmm.
and that some things that they have to be at and they have to be present for,
Mm-hmm.
and they're non-negotiable. And I think we need to be really, really clear about that.
Yeah.
We don't really want to, they need to be part of the family. And, especially when they're that age, we need to have some really good open communication with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to stay connected. And part of that is family time.
Yeah, yeah. Also, some parents seem to forget how it was when being a
Yes.
teenager,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
I think they really need to just remember how it was, and kind of, step into their shoes again, and in that way you can also, empower them and really connect more. Because we all were
Yeah.
teenagers, and I remember when my mother told me, you have to clean your room, but she didn't say when. I said, and she came, 10 minutes later, and the room wasn't clean, obviously. And,
Yeah.
she started yelling. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, you said I have to clean the room, but you didn't say when
They
I'm
will.
going to
Yeah.
do it, when I'm going to feel like doing it. And I think,
Yes.
if we just remember, and also, just be mindful of what you're saying, because I was right. And I still think I was right back then. I was going to clean the room.
Yeah.
But just not, this exact moment my mother wanted me to, but she didn't really state when I have to do it. So I really think that we have to kind of, just remember how it is. And, it's not easy to be a teenager, especially I think
That's really.
in nowadays, because
Yes.
our society is dramatically changing, and the peer pressure is really rising. So I really think we need to kind of be more empathic towards them, and this would solve
Yes. Yeah.
a lot of problems. So
Yeah.
but there are also some parents who having teenagers who are really having the only relationship with their computer and laptop and iPad and so on, and are kind of already addicted to online gaming, and they don't have their social life. What would you
Mm-hmm.
suggest they do? Because this obviously is an addiction, and we know how it is.
Sure.
If someone is addicted and we just take this thing away,
Mm.
it causes it's stressful, and it's causing frustration. What would you suggest to do?
I think it's about agreeing how long they get, but also giving them the decision about when they use it. So, for instance, in the holidays, you might say to your children, look, you can have 2 hours on a device, whether it's a laptop, TV, on your phone, whatever. You choose when you're going to have it, rather than saying to them, you have to have it in the morning. Or you explain what's happening during the day, and then say, look, there are a couple of good times when you can, when you want to be on your laptop. So, this is unavailable, but this is when it's available. And it's just about managing it. It's interesting because with new apps and stuff, you can now turn off your children's devices after they've had a certain amount of time, and you can monitor and you can see exactly what they're on. So, I think that's also really important, that we make sure that our children are on age-relevant stuff.
Yeah.
And also that we have access to some extent about their social media. If they're on Instagram, you need to be one of their friends. If they're on Facebook, you need to be one of their friends. Because we can't monitor everything they're doing, but we hope that we can trust them.
Exactly. Exactly. So what about your opinion on toddler watching like online cartoons and using iPads and so on? but just not for long, maybe 20 minutes per day.
I'm not really a big fan. I just, when my feeling is when I see people walking down the street and their child who's sitting in a pram has got a screen in front of them, I just think, what a shame. You're wasting time with them. You could be talking to them, even though you don't think they understand. They do. So, it's a wasted opportunity. I think that we have to be careful, that, there are so many things that young children, toddlers can interact with, go to the park, do, easy jigsaws, read them a book, whatever. And I even watch TV programs with them is fine. I think, it's more, I think it can become more of a problem when you start them at a young age. I know that, among my peers, most children get a mobile phone. It was at 11, but that's coming right down, and that has come right down in the last couple of years, because, my feeling is, well, what do you need a mobile phone for? Yeah, when you're going to and from school and being contactable. But, I don't even have games on my mobile phone. I use it for text and WhatsApp.
I know.
And that's about it. So, I think they really want to be connected, but the time that they really need to be connected is kind of once they go to secondary school. So I do kind of question like the screens being given to young children, because I just think it's a missed opportunity when at that age you want to nurture and get them exploring and discovering so much. Once they get to kind of 11, they're less inclined to want to explore and discover.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I would agree with you completely. So just for the final question, what do you think is a parent every child wishes to have? What kind of a parent would that be?
A parent that lets them do whatever they want, gives them money to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And just gives them total freedom and is incredibly laid back. But saying that, I actually think that children also like structure and security. And I think, when you go back to boundaries, I think, children want boundaries, even though they would never say that.
Yeah, but they do.
They definitely want to know where they stand and what they can and they can't do. Yeah. So they would say, oh yeah, I just eat candy all day. I'd really like my parents to let me do whatever I want. But I think the reality is they want more. They want something else.
Yeah, and I think also toddlers, they are screaming for boundaries when they are really pushing it and, to test you and to test the situations. I think what's behind it's really, this scream for boundaries, because they need it as a way to get oriented in a way, and they need routine. They do. And I think, I would agree completely. I really enjoyed this interview.
Good.
We have to come to an end, but before we do so, we asked all of our experts to prepare a special gift for all viewers. Yeah. So what have you prepared?
So I have an ebook that I'm going to give away. It's 50 ways for your child to have successful friendships. And you can email me, Naomi at thekidscoach.org.uk, and I will send you a free ebook.
Perfect. I'm going to do it. definitely.
Okay,
So,
great.
Naomi, thank you so much for this amazing interview and all of your suggestions and ideas how to, how to manage, our struggles and,
Yeah,
and parental struggles, basically. I know all of the parents I actually asked about this question, they're going to watch and they're going to be, so happy to hear what you have to say.
good.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, who were with us today. And I see you back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.